I have a list of things that kind of cover, and it really all focuses on one particular topic, which is technology today. But if you have additional information you want to talk about, I'll be happy to talk about that as well. Take any notes and get back on information and do some things like that. I have a short video, it's about 5 minutes, I'll also show as part of the meeting as well. As always, we are recording this and it will be posted for families who can't attend. So I do appreciate those that are able to come in the morning, but I also understand that this is not always the most convenient time for everyone. I want to start off by just kind of saying that things are running smooth overall. There is a lot of pressure and stress on the teachers right now in regard to trying to align to the new Common Core standards. It's a completely different way of working with learning for our children. So you are seeing the teachers having to learn different ways to ask questions, asking for deeper thought in regard to student responses. So I think it all in the long run will be very, very good. But right now they're in a learning process just like our students are in regard to some changes in how things are going to look in the classroom. The testing process in and of itself for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and even trickling into K2, is also going to change, where you're going to see a lot more open-ended questions, and where children are going to have to defend their responses a lot more. So it's kind of a transition nationally where children are going to be asked to do a little more, which I think is the right direction to go in regard to this. But it is going to be a change for some kids, where some students were used to just being able to give a multiple choice response or a direct answer and be able to move on. Now they're going to be asked to kind of defend their answer, or even to be able to look at multiple ways to solve a problem. So if you're using math as an example, which is an easy example, you may get a specific math problem. Well, a child should be able to look at multiple ways to solve a problem before they decide which one is the best way. There may be an more efficient way to do it, but there's probably multiple ways to solve a basic multiplication problem. You can use arrays, you can create groups, whatever you want to do. But our children need to be able to look at things and be able to look at different strategies to solve problems. And that really just kind of works in problem-solving skills and getting kids to critically think. The authentic writing piece is another thing that the core pushes a lot, which is not just writing to a prompt all the time, which is what we've done in the past, where they'll say, tell me about a great day you had, or tell me about tell me what you did on your weekend, which is a prompt. Instead, it would be looking at an article or something and then giving a response based on that article and making it more authentic. Or if you get an essential question from a teacher where a child will have to try to defend their response versus saying, my mom or dad think this. A good example for that would be when you talk about political situations. Our job is not to push one candidate or another in the schools, and you have to really walk a fine line in regard to that. But our job is to share information about all candidates and about politics in general. So when I used to be a teacher in middle school and we talked about religions, we talked about all world religions, and we talked about the facts of those religions. We did not talk about Christianity being better than Hindi, being better than Judaism, so on and so forth. But we do need our kids to know what's going on more than, well, that's what my mom and dad say. They need to have some breadth to what they're doing. So that's kind of a different philosophy in regard to how kids are going to be asked to think a little bit. So size-wise as a school, we are still really big. We are at 1102. And we've kind of, stayed at that point. We've got a lot of students that have come in, but we've actually had students that have left. So there's a lot of transition this year, people moving to different parts of the country. So, as we are gaining students on a regular basis, it's kind of evening out now as students are moving at the same time. So we're at about 1102, which is right now, I think, the 3rd largest elementary school up in this part of the area. Hawk Ridge is slightly larger than us still. And I think Blythe is right about the same as we are, which is down off of Old Statesville Road. So I think, and Torrance Creek is still slightly larger than us, and I think they're at 12. But they've actually dropped the number. And then they're going to see a huge shift in a year as the new, it doesn't have a true name yet, but the new Stumptown Elementary is what they're calling it now, is created. And based on the lines that are drawn right now, the only school that's going to be impacted by that is Torrance Creek. Now that could all change, but as of right now, and Rhonda Lennon was supposed to be coming today, so that would be a good person for me to kind of ask. But at this particular moment, we will not be impacted by that new school. So Torrance Creek will have their numbers drop immensely due to that, but our numbers will probably maintain. Like I've said in the past, I do think that We're going to have to look at redrawing our lines eventually, because we do have some areas that really don't fit into our pattern very well, that at the time made sense, but now really don't. Antiquity would be one of them that we get that probably shouldn't be ours. And then there's always going to be argument in regard to the Birkdales. One half of Birkdale goes to Torrance Creek right now, that's the golf course side, and then the shop side comes to us. And I think that's always up for conversation. And then the areas behind Target are always up in conversation as well. So though none of those things have happened yet, you know, expect in the future, maybe not in the next year, but in the future, that they will be talking about those things again. And also, just to kind of keep you in the educational loop in the area, it has kind of resurfaced in regard to the demographics and how they drew the lines that impacted North Meck High School. So I know that that has come back to the forefront. I've read about it a little bit in the Huntersville Herald and the Cornelius papers, where there are groups, again, kind of initiating that conversation to look at how Huff's lines have been drawn and how that's negatively impacted North Meck by some people's viewpoints. Though I don't have a high school student, I have been reading a little bit about that. So that's kind of just like a State of the Union kind of scenario. I did want to show you one thing, but I'm not going to show it to you right now. But I wanted to show you our Facebook page. How many people are members on our Facebook page? Okay, most everyone. If you're not and you go on Facebook, please like our page. We do share a lot of information on the page. I try everything that I share via email with our parents. I try to send reminders out on that as well. It's a great opportunity for us to kind of share information with parents. So if it is a tool you use, please try to join us on that, because we do try to put information out there on a regular basis. I have not done as good a job on our Twitter page. We have about 60 followers on that, but I have not done as good a job on that as getting information out. With only 60 people following it, I haven't really put as much effort into it, but I need to start doing both on a regular basis. We did receive some exciting news last week, and I was really surprised that I didn't get any parents' emails of stress and anxiety about it. We were one of 21 schools that was chosen to be a BYOT school, Bring Your Own Technology school. So we were really excited to hear that. We've been talking about it for a while, but usually with that, once the realization comes that, you know, you're going to be one, everybody starts to get anxious and says, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with that? And just to kind of share a little bit about the process with you, and hopefully I'm going to spend the majority of our time that I'm going to talking about that, is to kind of hopefully put you at ease a little bit. But the process that we had to finish was when the system decided they were going to pilot this versus opening it up to every school immediately, and they realized that that was not going to be possible, was that we had to do a readiness survey. And it was basically a document that schools that were interested had to complete and turn into the Chief Information Officer and her team. Her name's Dr. Truesdale, and she's brand new to our system. But we had to do a list of questions about how ready we were, what we had in place in our processes, and how we wanted to roll this out. And 21 schools were chosen, and I was one of the schools that turned in an application for that, because I thought it was important for us to be on the front end of that versus on the back end. But what our stipulation was, we were going to start in one grade level and then be able to build the infrastructure around that and then slowly trickle it down. So we were chosen as one of the 21 schools, and I put the press release on the table there for you to take if you want it. It's also been in the Charlotte, I don't know if it was in the Charlotte Observer, but I know it was on the online version of the Charlotte Observer almost immediately. We found out, and it was online probably within 20 minutes of us finding out. So I wasn't real excited about that, because I really wanted to come up with my own way to share it with our parents. And we honestly don't know exactly our expectations yet. We meet on Friday to learn more about it. So I've been kind of tempering an announcement to kind of be able to really give parents the nuts and bolts. But just to kind of give you an idea, we're starting in 5th grade. Our 5th grade already had received a grant. So they are set up with wireless out there already. So it's going to be a natural transition for us to begin the BYOT with 5th graders. Eventually, see, the problem with our school is right now we're on a different system than a lot of schools. No fault of ours, that's just how they designed it. We are still, and I'm going to probably mix this up, we're either in Cisco or another program, and then we're transitioning over. By January, we'll be transitioned over where they'll start to set us up for wireless across our whole school. But we're starting in 5th grade. They already have 10 iPads in every single classroom as part of the grant that they won. And then what this will allow is on certain occasions, students will be able to access a filtered wireless for activities. Again, it's filtered, and I've talked about that before. You will have access to exactly the same things that you have on the landline computer. Kids aren't going to be able to use it anytime they want. It's going to be part of the program just like any other tool a teacher is going to have in the classroom. So there's going to be some times where a teacher will ask children if they have a device, they could bring it in on that day if parents are okay with it. And there's going to be other times where they won't use it at all. They may just use the iPads that are in the classroom. And one thing that they won't be able to do is use 3G. So because that will be considered unfiltered at that point where they can access anything. So when the process does roll out, we will be going over some specific guidelines with our children in regard to what is okay and what is not, and it will be just used as a tool. Our goal is to try to make it seamless, and what I say by that is not to use technology just for technology's sake, but to really use it to enhance learning in the classroom. So I'm trying to get teachers, and this is a learning experience for them too, because they've never had these kind of tools in their classroom either, is to get teachers to not try to cram technology into every lesson and make it fit, but instead to make it happen almost organically, where if they're working on an activity that they feel it can enhance what they're doing or allow students to access information, it's going to be a tool to do that. That way our children are continuing to understand that these are tools that I'm going to use in my everyday life. If I need to access information, we're going to have access. Another thing that I think is a positive benefit of it for families that don't have, this is going to be an opportunity to expose more children to technology that may not have it at home. So if a family doesn't have computer access at home, or if a family doesn't have access to an iPad or any other kind of device, this is going to be a chance where they will be able to work with classmates or work individually on devices here at school. So to me, it doesn't create a uneven playing field. It actually evens the playing field for families. The other thing I have a kind of a laundry list of things I wanted to make sure I addressed, is that you do not have to feel like you need to run out and buy an iPad or a new device or an iPhone or anything like that. If a child doesn't have a device, or you don't feel comfortable with your child bringing your device, we are going to take care of that. We are making sure that we're in a situation where we can support all of our kids in that environment. So we want to make sure our parents understand that, I don't have to go out and buy, Sarah a new iPad, or if she comes home and says, I need an iPad, Morgan needs an iPad, that you don't feel that this innate pressure to purchase a device, because that is not what we are expecting from our parents at all. Even if they have one, I'm not expecting all of our parents to be comfortable with bringing the devices to school, because the reality is, it is bring at your own risk. The school's not responsible for a lost item. So, there are some people that are not going to be comfortable with that at all, and I completely and unequivocally understand that. So, if they're not, we will use what we do have at our disposal. Like I said, in 5th grade, it's going to be a little easier to start at, because we actually have 70 iPads at student use already accessible to our children. So it will be a much easier transition. So our plan is to start in our 5th grade with our mobiles, and then as the infrastructure and we get things ironed out with that group, we will slowly matriculate it through our school in a really organized fashion to make sure all of our students eventually have access when needed. There's going to be far less needs in K1 and perhaps in 2 than there may be in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So don't think I'm just going to, we're just going to open up and hand everybody a tech tool and say, go ahead and learn on your own. That's not the process that we're looking at. The goal is to try to integrate it into what we're doing. So hopefully your children have talked a little bit about being able to use the iPad in class or using it for different things. If they haven't, hopefully you're going to hear about it soon, because we do talk about it with our teachers a lot, to use it during workshop time, figure out ways to integrate it into different tasks that we're doing in the building. Any questions while I'm kind of looking at my list? Anything at all about the initial? Okay. Some things that have been really cool so far that if you have an upper grade student, you may have seen already. I have had the opportunity to go into a 5th grade math class, and they actually Skyped with an engineer, and they had to talk to them about really more of what I focused on when I came in. I asked a question about collaboration. What I wanted kids to understand was that most people work on teams now. And you know, though technology and math are a part of everything we do, they also need to be able to work in a group. So he did a really, really good job in this 5th grade class of going in and talking to them about how they had project deadlines, how they had to set up the organization, how they had to communicate with people in so many different fields and really work as a team, that even though he was the person that actually drew the plan, he had to work with HVAC guys, and he had to work with classroom teachers, and he had to work with all these different things because he was a project manager for building schools for his company. So it was a really good opportunity for students to see how to, you know, incorporate area and different things mathematically, but also the question I asked was more about the collaboration piece, because the one thing our kids don't seem to get yet, and you know, it's really our job to do that as a whole, is they're really good independently, but working as a team is very, very difficult with them. Not only is it because some of them are type A personalities where they're really good students and they don't like to be slowed down by other people, so you have that group of people, and then you have some that sit back and know that other people are going to do it, and they sit back as well. So I think it's really, really important that kids understand that they have accountability when they're in these situations, because the reality is, in most businesses today, in one way, shape, or form, you're working with other people. So we are beginning to have that conversation. So I thought that was powerful for our 5th graders to hear how many people this gentleman had to work with. So though they didn't go see this man, I thought it was really cool that we were able to Skype it in and do that, and we hope to see more of that in the future as well. Yes?
Did that get recorded at all to where it can be blasted to all the classes? Because it seems to be a problem, and the teachers do not communicate when there is a group project on the individuality and the collaboration and stuff like that. That would be good coming from a
non-entity. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. But that was a 5th grade activity. Another thing we're doing across a lot of classes right now is Edmodo. And what Edmodo is basically, I guess an easy way to say it's almost like an educational Facebook without making it, making it simplistic in nature. It is a program where kids can access in a controlled environment where the teacher can ask essential questions about a topic. To use an example of, say, science, they can ask about something in particular about matter, or if they want children to find something about a particular skill, they can ask the essential question, and then the children are asked to find information about that. Some kids will post videos that they find about that particular topic. Some students will respond in writing about what they learned about that topic, and then I actually get joined in as well in most cases, but the teacher responds back. They can do assignments on it. It's just another way to get that authentic writing piece in. There's strict guidelines. They're not allowed to use text talk or anything like that. They have to write in complete sentences. They need to be able to be respectful to peers. So if one peer wrote something that may not have been as higher level thinking as another child, you don't make a negative comment about that. So we're really teaching that digital citizenship at the same time. So that is something that some teachers have begun to use in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade mainly at this point, to really get that authentic writing. And the feedback I've received from students that are using it in certain classrooms is very exciting. When they find out that I'll respond back to them, or that I'm on the site and go on at different times, I think people get very, very excited. The kids get really excited about it. And it's a situation where they're still learning about a topic that you've decided, and they're also doing the authentic writing at the same time, just in a different format. So again, when I talk about the seamless use of technology, that's what I'm talking about. It's happening without kids really even realizing it's going on. It's not that big of a deal. It's just something that's an extension of whatever activity we're doing. So hopefully you're going to see more of that. Yes?
On the Edmodo, Miss Hume's class, when they go in there, they don't get comments.
From her?
She says she's putting them in there, but for some reason
they're not seeing them?
Can't see them. So it's kind of like, do we use that, or do we just have them hand in the paper, because the paper we get comments back? Yeah,
because most of it, they should be getting comments. So I'll follow up with her about that too.
Been able to figure out how we're not seeing the comments.
Yeah, because I go in and I just do it right, and it creates basically a trail, just like on Facebook. But again, that is something.
Honestly, Madison still wants to do
right.
math, but I want her to do paper.
And get credit. I understand that too. Yeah, that's a good point. One of the things that obviously technology brings is obstacle. So one of the things we have to be flexible with in regard to our staff as well is trying to make sure that we're prepared for those kind of things. So I'll talk to Shelley about that and figure it out, because if it's happening in one place, it's probably happening somewhere else. So we do train our teachers on how to do it. One of the things we wanted to make sure as part of our rollout process was we just didn't hand everybody a technology tool and say, go at it. We do have something called Tech Tuesdays that we do that Ms. Thompson, our math, and she's really a tech facilitator at the same time. She does a lot of training for our teachers in regard to different programs. As teachers ask about different things, we'll set up trainings in our computer lab to kind of show teachers how to use it. I've mentioned also previously using Innovate Time, which is something that I came up with a while back. I actually found it on a blog, that I will give teachers time to work on activities where if they let me know what the activity is that they're interested in, we coordinate 2 45-minute blocks of time where I will go in and teach a class for them so they can come out of the classroom and they can work on a particular skill. Oftentimes they will do that with Ms. Thompson or Ms. Lipsky, both of our tech people, to try to figure out how to implement it, what they need to do research-wise, and how to do that. So we are doing more and more of this to try to get our teachers really trained in how to use the tool, so they're not afraid to use it either. Because in a lot of cases, kids still know more than they do in regard to some of this technology. So the training is coming with it on a regular basis. And when you think about why are we going down this road? Though no one in this group has asked me yet, to me it's really about creating opportunities for kids to create and collaborate on a regular basis. This is, though we don't ever know, and you hear constantly, well, what's it going to look like when our kids graduate? You read all these statistics that our children are going to have 14 majors by the time they graduate college, or they're going to have in their lifetime 30 jobs over time because they change jobs and different things. And that all may be true. That could all change by the time our children are older. We don't really know. But I do know that we have to prepare our kids for what we believe is going to be what they're going to deal with in the future. And we know that textbook learning in and of itself, by itself, is not the only way to learn anymore. We have to teach our kids other ways to learn and to be able to learn from each other. And it's not bad to have two people working together where they share information together. There are going to be some times when children have to be assessed on their own, and we still are going to have to continue to do that because we are individuals. But there are going to be times where, we've always used the term 2 heads are better than one. When you get a group of heads together, and the engineer mentioned this in the Skype interview, he's like, some things I would never even think about. But when a teacher talks about the structure, they say, well, I would never put this here. And then they go back in and they make changes based upon that. So that same kind of environment needs to happen in some of our situations here at school so kids can learn from each other. I went in and talked to 2 5th grade literacy classes, I guess it was last week or the week before, and we talked about leadership. And it's just kind of the same kind of thing. You could be a leader in certain situations, but you're not leaders in other situations. It's situational. You sit back because you're not as strong in a certain thing and somebody else at that table is. Let them take the lead in certain things. Well, you may be stronger in something else, and then you'll take the lead and step up in that situation. It's the same thing when we collaborate in those kind of group situations. So I think it's really, really important that we are trying to get our kids to use this information as quickly as we possibly can. Again, though, not just as to hand them something and put them in a corner. That's not the point of the device. It should be used to create and learn. Using Show Me, which is an application where kids can actually be assessed by talking into it and actually working on problems, and you can actually do this at home. If you have a child and you have an iPad, you can actually go to this free application called Show Me, and you can say, listen, you think you know how to do this? Teach me how to do this. And they actually can talk, use their voice, and they have a whiteboard that you can actually see them solve a problem right in front of you. And then you can share it with someone else. So that's a powerful assessment tool. So it's not just paper and pencil, but I can guarantee if you can explain to me the water cycle that way, I can guarantee you know the water cycle. So it's another great way to show kids. And some kids are not great writers. Well, we need to give them avenues as well to allow them to, voice that and share information verbally in some cases. So that's another opportunity for them to do that. And there's several out there. There's Show Me, Edu-Creations is another one that's very, very popular. But those are applications that, children can actually teach other people. And then you can use that in another class and say, listen, I know Jimmy knows how to do the water cycle. go over and watch his video on the water cycle, and you'll see it from his standpoint as well, so you can hear a student talking. We actually did it last year with one of our 5th graders, where he did one, and then we shared it with our 2nd grade, and our 2nd graders learned from the 5th grader's voice and him writing out the water cycle. So again, there's a lot of different powerful ways you can create using these tools, and that's really what we want to do with it. What I'm going to show you for a few minutes here is kind of a video, not kind of a video, it is a video, that shows some of the power of what these devices can do and where I think we need to head as a school. We had a group from CMS that went down to Georgia recently, and actually Jill Thompson was lucky enough to be chosen to be one of the ones that went. And they got to visit a school system and see how they're using technology, and they've been using it for quite a while. But I think it's a powerful video when you start to hear some of the children and what they're saying. Now, keep in mind that these are 6th graders, I think, in most cases, so they are a little bit older than maybe some of our children. But we are starting with our 5th graders, so you can see some of the connections that they're making. So I just want to show that to you real fast.